All right, guys, before I get started with this video, I want to let you know right off the bat that the title of this video is not clickbait. There is something very dangerous that you can do with a Glock handgun, and the reason I'm making this video is due to a response that I got from a viewer on my last video where I talked about the 3 safeties on a Glock handgun and how they're automatic and 2 are internal and 1's on the trigger. So this person asked me a question and he said, what happened with the dancing FBI agent who dropped his gun while doing a flip at a bar in Denver, and his gun went off and shot someone in the leg in the bar? Well, first of all, guys, I will try to post a link to that video in the description box below that you can click on and watch after you watch this video if you don't know what he's talking about. But I'm going to let you know what happened with that FBI agent and where he went wrong, operator error, but it's still something dangerous that you can do with a Glock handgun. Okay, so let me first of all tell you guys that I know 4 FBI agents out of the Cleveland, Ohio office. Sometimes I have to deal with them in my job capacity. One of them is a supervisor. And only one of these 4 guys that I know are into guns. So sometimes I think the general public gets a notion that all of government ABC agencies and law enforcement are a gun guy like I am or like you are. And this is totally not the case. Absolutely not the case. It would be like if all the FBI agents get issued, let's just say a Ford Taurus, and a group of FBI guys go out and a car guy comes up to them. Maybe one of those agents is into cars. The other guys probably aren't car guys like me. I have no interest in cars. It's the same way when we're dealing with firearms and law enforcement and government agencies. You will have the certain few of these people that are really into firearms and really get into it and dig deeply. But the vast majority of these guys just see this as something they put on just like you do your watch or your shirt. So this guy, he misused his judgment big time, and he shouldn't have done this. So what is the number 1 dangerous thing you can do with a Glock? Grabbing it while it's falling through the air, or if you drop it. Or grabbing it quickly if it fell to the floor and pulling the trigger. There is also the case of a famous football player that put a Glock in the waistband of his sweatpants, was in a club, the gun slid down his pants. Through the leg of his pants, he grabbed it, and as he grabbed it through the pants, he pulled the trigger and shot himself in the leg. See, this is where people mess up. If you ever drop a Glock, let it go. Learn to let it go. If you have to stand in your house and drop your gun 100 times, let it fall to the floor. So what did this FBI agent do wrong? He did not grab the gun while it was in midair. Oh no, he did not. He did a flip. The gun fell out of his holster, came crashing down to the floor, and as he and the gun were both moving and the gun was coming to a stop, he reached in like this so fast to try to grab the gun that he put his finger in the trigger guard, and as he picked it up, he pulled the trigger. His mind was only on correcting the situation. It wasn't on what he was doing. That's why I tell you guys, when you film a video, I don't play the tough guy and load a gun and stand in front of the camera and say, oh yeah, I'm here with this fully loaded gun. I pay attention to the camera, and I don't work with a loaded gun in front of the camera because my mind is on what I'm doing. Anyway, what happened was this guy's mind, he had tunnel vision. He thought, everybody in this bar is looking at me, because he just did a backflip. So what did he do? He reached down like this, and as he grabbed the gun like this, in his haste to pick it up, he squeezed the trigger and a round went off. I know of another guy, a guy that shot his finger off. I don't know him in person. This is a guy that does a YouTube video about it. I don't know his name, but he does YouTube video about this. He carries appendix. And what he did was he took his gun out of his appendix holster when he got home, and for whatever reason, he said he kind of got into a habit of kind of doing like this, juggling his gun around a little bit when he would maneuver it. And he said for whatever reason, when he grabbed his gun out of the holster and went like this, he almost lost grip of it, and grasped his, and one of his fingers went in the trigger guard and shot a finger off on his other hand. So this really is the only problem that you can have with a gun that only has internal safeties. Now, all of this always goes back to operator error. Your safety's right here. There is no manual safety that will override this. So what I'm saying is you could put 20 safeties on a gun, and if you aren't safety conscious, you still can have an accidental discharge, or you still could hurt or kill someone. This is your safety. I don't prefer a safety on a gun. If you do, that's fine. Or I know people that carry without one in the chamber. And what do I say to people that don't carry with one in the chamber? If that's how you feel comfortable, I would never ever make you carry with one in the chamber or ask you to carry with one in the chamber. If you feel comfortable carrying a gun without one in the chamber, what I say is to practice and go to the range and do what you got to do, or take a shooting course. And until you feel comfortable, don't chamber one when you carry. I would never ever push somebody that way. If that's not what they want to do, that's up to them. They still have one on them. And yes, I know of situations where people that carried with a gun not chambered still pulled that gun and quickly racked around and ended the situation that was going on without an issue. So I know fights and arguments for both sides. But I just want to tell you guys that never ever, even if a gun's empty, even if a Glock's empty, never grab it if it's falling to the ground. I don't care if you're concrete, pavement, whatever. Don't even reach for it. Just let it go. Let it go. Because 9 times out of 10, if you grab it and you squeeze, Murphy's Law, man, one of your fingers is going to go in that trigger guard, and you could knock a round off. Another thing I tell people is, here is what I told a friend of mine. He doesn't carry with one in the chamber. And I told him that's perfectly fine. But what I told him to do was, if you don't carry with one in the chamber, before you put your magazine in, make sure the gun's clear, double check, drop your trigger back like this. That way, when you put your magazine in, you always have a quick visual reference that there's nothing in the chamber, because you cannot have a round in the chamber and have the trigger back on a Glock. So this is a quick visual aid. He said, oh, that's a great idea. He really didn't think of it till I told him. And that's how he carries his gun. Without one in the chamber, keeps the trigger back. Look, when you rack it, it's going to cock the gun anyway. You don't have to have that trigger forward. There's no reason to. But it's a quick visual. Whenever you holster, whenever you take it out, whenever you put it away, you always visually know that there's not a round in the chamber because that trigger is back. But yeah, guys, just be careful. It's not something that should happen, because you should always have good control over your firearm. But let's be honest. You shooting and it's raining or something, you could have an instance where you may slip or lose hold of a firearm. It has happened to the best of us. It has happened to people. It's happened to military. It's happened to law enforcement. It's happened to government. You name it. So what I'm trying to tell you is, and what I'm trying to say is if you ever do anything, you miss your holster, whatever, just let the gun go. Let it go. Worry about it another day. You can get another one for $500. You can't get another leg. All right, guys, until next time, this is DOF. Please click like, click subscribe, and I'll be back real soon, and I am out.